Hello again, gamers. Welcome back to the Board Game Captain. I'm the Captain, and today I'm going to be reviewing and showing you how to play Rumble Nation. Now, for my players in the United States who watch this show, this game is not actually available for sale in the United States. So if you do want to get a copy of this, you will have to get an import copy of this. The edition I have here that I was sent for review from Studio Supernova, and I want to give a big thank you to Studio Supernova for sending me this review copy to check out and play and film some content with. But this edition I have here is in specifically Italian and French, but there are rules in English available on Board Game Geek. If you go to Board Game Geek, you go to Rumble Nation, you go to the files, they have the full translation of the rulebook, so you can check it out there. It makes it very easy to be able to play. I do recommend having it available on a phone, tablet, or computer while you're playing for quick reference of which cards you have drawn, because again, the cards, linguistically will only be in Italian or French. Before we get too into this, I do want to say I've got a ton of links in the description down below that you can check out at your leisure. There's a link to BoardGameCaptain.com, which is a great hub for all things Board Game Captain. There's also a link to my Teespring store if you'd like to get yourself some cool Board Game Captain merch, t-shirts, mugs, etc. And there's a link to my Patreon if you're in a position to and would like to support the channel. Link to my Patreon in the description down below. All right, so Rumble Nation. Now, Rumble Nation is listed as being for ages 10 and up for 2 to 4 players and is listed as a 30-minute game. So I'm going to start there. Now, for ages 10 and up, yeah, that's fine. This is a fairly easy game to learn and to teach. There's not a huge amount going on here. There is a learning curve towards strategy towards which territories you want to get for scoring. And younger players may not really get that as much, but just playing the game is easy. It's easy to learn to play. Now, for the 30 minutes, there should be a bit of a range. It does go longer with more players, but 30 minutes isn't a bad estimate. I would say it's probably more like 20 minutes to 45 minutes, depending on your number of players. Now, for the ages 2 to 4, the game does play a little differently at 2 players. It's not a significant difference. There's one element that's completely removed in 2-player game. Also, I don't find it nearly as enjoyable as I do at, say, 3 or 4 players, because in the 2-player game, there's just a lot less putting of cubes on the board because you have less players with, less cubes. All right, so let's open this up and we're going to show what comes in the box here. Now, again, we've got rule books, but the rule books are in Italian and French. But again, for free, BoardGameGeek.com, go to Rumble Nation. There is a file there with the English language rules. Now, also, we have the board. I quite like this board. It's got an old map kind of feel to it. There's a nice cheat sheet on the bottom here, which is used to remind you of how many troops you place for different die rolls, which is very good. And you have a little map of an area of Japan, basically, that you're going to be fighting over, sort of in an abstract way. Next, we have a whole bunch of wooden cubes. Now, if you've played any sort of Euro game, you know what wooden cubes are, and you've seen them in games before. We also have these little wooden samurai helmets. Now, these are the different colors to be able to remind everybody what color it is you're playing. You put one of these out in front of you. And we have some cardboard punch-out tokens. There's a bunch of these. If you've seen cardboard punch-out tokens, you know what the quality level is. They're fine. They're cardboard punch-out tokens. Nothing to rave about, but they're fine. We have some basic dice. There are 3 6-sided dice in here. And we have some cards. Now, the cards do have symbols on them, so after playing it a number of times, you will start to be able to go language independent with these cards, which is good, considering that there are none of these in English at the moment, because again, wasn't released in the United States or Britain, or any of the other English-speaking countries around the world. Yeah, overall production, I would say, was good. Nothing crazy to rave about, but it's good. It's fun. One of my favorite little things about the production is the illustrated inside to the box cover. If you take everything out, you can use this as a dice tray. And it's very pretty. I like that a lot. That's one of those little extras that it wasn't necessary, but I like that they did it, so I do enjoy that quite a bit. Probably my favorite bit on the production is this illustrated box, trough that can be used as a dice tray. That said, that's everything that comes in the box. Now we're going to head over to the table. I'm going to run you through a whole game of this to show you how it goes, and we're going to come back. I'm going to talk about how this game plays and feels, and I'm going to rate it and review it. Okay, so here we are set up to play a 3-player game of Rumble Nation. So in order to set up the game, the first thing you have to do is place the board out in the middle of the table. Then the second thing you need to do is shuffle all of the large castle tokens face down, and you place them on all the circle spaces before flipping them up and revealing what numerical value each of the spaces will have for this particular game. Then you have to shuffle up the tactic cards, and you deal out a number of tactic cards that is related to the number of players you are playing. So currently at a 3-player game, we deal out 4 tactic cards. Then you have to place out all of the tokens next to the board. You have reinforcement tokens, you have sword tokens, and you have small castle tokens, which are for the runner-ups in any particular region. Each player has to pick a color, and they take their token of the color they are using, as well as all of the cubes. I'll be controlling a yellow player and a black player over here.
I'll be over here, and I'm controlling the blue.
And then you randomly decide who goes first. Now, there are 2 phases to this game. During the first phase, it's the deployment phase where we have to place out soldiers on the board. We do that through dice rolling and through use of the cards. Then the second phase is the battle phase, the war phase rather, where you fight over all of the particular spaces and reinforce adjacent spaces that haven't fought yet. Now we're going to go over this while playing to show you how this goes. We've decided that Lynn will be taking the first turn. So starting out with the deployment phase and Lynn's first turn. Lynn, are you going to do a dice roll for your first turn?
Yes.
Usually the first few turns are dice rolls before somebody has the opportunity to use one of the cards. Now when you roll the dice, what you're looking for is a number on a pair of the dice that is going to be the location you're going to put your soldiers into, and the other die is how many soldiers you're going to put there based on the cheat sheet on the bottom of the board there. Lynn, point to it for me. So as you can see there, this could be the 3 space, which is actually a very valuable space for reasons I'll explain later. And then the 4 would be 2 soldiers placed in the 3 space as a hypothetical. On the other hand, of course, it could be the 6 space with only 1 soldier placed there. There's a few different ways to organize. It could also be the 5 space with 1 soldier placed there. On the other hand, Lynn can re-roll all the dice once if she does not like this roll. If she wishes to, though, she does have to re-roll all of them. So, Lynn, what are you going to do?
I'm going to put 2 in the 3.
That is a very good decision. The yellow player has rolled a possible 3 on the 5, or they could get 1 on the 8. A lot of different things here. I think they're going to go for the 3 on the 5, though. 3 because the 5 equals 3 squares over there. And then the other 2 dice put together, 3 and a 2, equal the 5 space. And the reason for this is also that the 5 can very easily reinforce a lot of the spaces around it, which is going to be very tactically good in a minute. Now for the black player, I'm going to roll again. And whoa, we got some really high numbers here. We can get 3 on the 11. I'm going to go for that because actually 11 is a very high point space, and that's a rare opportunity to get such a good roll for a high point space, so I'm going to take it.
Ooh.
What you going to do with that roll?
I'm going to put 2 on the 11.
Oh, Lynn is going to fight me for the 11. Very good. Now the yellow is got snake eyes with 2, and they're going to take that. They're going to put 2 on the 2 space. Moving on to the black player. The black player is going to roll. They've got a 4. They got a 4 with 3, and they're going to take that because the 4 space again is a fairly valuable low point space that can then reinforce the 11 that I'm fighting with Lynn over.
This is the exile card, and I get to take an opponent's cube from an area where I also have cubes and move it to an adjacent area. So I'm going to take one of his cubes here and pop it there.
Interesting. So now Lynn will have the opportunity in the future to further reinforce that area. We'll see how that works out. yellow is going to take their turn, and they're going to roll the 3 dice. And let's see. Ooh, so they could get 3 guys in the 7 space. They could get 2 guys in the 10 space. Or they could get 2 guys in the 9 space. They're going to re-roll that. None of those are really throwing them at the moment. So they're going to roll it again. And they're stuck with 2 guys in the 7 space, really, is where they've wound up. So that's what they're going to do. They're going to throw 2 guys in the 7 space. Now going on to the black player, they're going to roll 3 dice. And they're going to put 3 guys in the 4 space there. 3 again, because a 5 or a 6 is 3 guys. And 4 because the 2 2s make it 4. So they're going to have a lot of guys over there in the 4 space.
I'm going to do this card.
Hold on.
Was decoy.
Yes.
It's decoy. I get to move one of my cubes and 2 opponents' cubes across to a different space. So I'm going to go like this.
That was very rude of you. Now, the yellow player is going to roll again. Let's see here. They are going to re-roll that. They're not very happy with that roll. They're going to go again. And with this roll, they have decided they are going to put 3 guys in the snake eyes space, in the 2 space over here, to really make sure it is definitely theirs. Moving on to the black player. The black player is going to play this card over here, which is called Sub Squad. They are allowed to move half of their warriors from one area rounded down to a neighboring area. They're going to choose the 4 area and move 3 of their units into the 11 area there to, again, regain control.
I'm going to re-roll. Okay, I'm going to put 3 in the 6.
Good play. Yellow's going to take a roll, and they're going to put 2 guys in the 8. Then black is going to take a roll, and black is going to go with 3 guys in... Oh, should I do that? Where's the 10? Oh, there's the 10. 3 guys in the 10 space. Oh, do you want to fight over the snake eyes space with yellow? Probably
No.
not.
I'm going to re-roll.
Yeah, I figured.
I'm going to put 2 in the 5.
2 in the 5. All right, the yellow is going to use the last of the cards there, called the Retreat, where they take 3 of their cubes from the board back to their supply. They're going to take 3 of the cubes out from the 2. That will be their turn. And then black's turn, they're going to roll the dice. So let's see. I can place in the 11 space, which I'm currently controlling. I could place in the 9 space, which I am not. I'm going to go that way. I'm going to place 3 soldiers in the 9 space.
I'm going to put 2 in the 8.
2 in the 8 space. All right, so fighting over the 8 with yellow. Let's see. Well, if yellow keeps this one, basically they're either going to the 9 or the 6. If they go to the 6, they'd be fighting over it with blue, but they can only put 2 of their guys there. If they go, excuse me, they can put 3 of their guys there and fight over it. That's actually not bad. If they go to the 9, they're fighting over with black, but can only put 2 of their guys there. So yeah, they're going to go and fight over the 6 with 3 of their guys. So moving on to the black player. Black player is going to roll. Let's see, they could place in the 7. They could place in the 8, where they don't have a dog in that fight yet. They could also place in the 3 where they are currently fighting over that with blue. I think they're going to go for that. So they can place 3 of their soldiers in the blue space. Now this is the last of black's plays. They are out of soldiers, which means if the cards were not all played by now, they would no longer be allowed to be played. You can only roll dice and place guys from this point on, and black will have to pass the rest of their turns because they've placed all of their soldiers. Also being the first person to pass, the black player takes the 3 sword token. So it is blue's turn.
I'm going to put 2 in number 5.
Good play. Yellow's turn. Yellow is going to... Oh! Yellow is going to put 1 guy in the boxcars because nobody has that yet. And they might be able to sneak a steal on the 12 there with 1 soldier.
I'm going to put 3 in the 5.
Okay, well, I'm pretty sure the 5 is yours. Yellow is going to roll, and they've got... Let's see. Well, they could put 2 in the 5, but that looks like a lost cause. They could fight over the 4 with black. That doesn't look very good. The 7, where they've already got some guys there, they could put 1 guy there. They're going to re-roll. They want, I want something better for yellow there. They're going to get another roll on that. Let's see. The 11, not very good. They can further back up the 7 or the 8. They're going to go for the 8 because the 8, they can put 3 in the 8, which will give them current control over the 8.
Well, I only have 2, so...
You're going to place all of them, as long as you do anything other than a 1.
I'm going to reroll. Okay, I guess I'll get 2 in the 7.
Okay. And then that is the last of your cubes, so you take the 2 sword token. Yellow has only 2 cubes left to finish out the round. Let's see here. They could place 1 of them in the 8 if they want, which they've already got dead to rights, or both of them in the 7 and make sure they maintain the 7. So I think they're going to do that, and they're going to make sure they get the 7 points there, at which point the yellow player takes the 1 sword token. Now we're going to move on to the next phase, which is the war phase, where we go in ascending numerical order to earn points. So the 2 castle is the lowest value castle, and the yellow player obviously gets that. Now, they would be able to reinforce with white cubes, these are the reinforcement cubes, neighboring areas that they have soldiers in. Now, that island was only neighboring to this island here, and yellow doesn't have anyone there, so they actually don't get to reinforce that. So now we're going to move on to the 3. Now, the 3 castle is owned by the black player. They definitely win that, so they get the large castle token. The runner-up, being the blue player, since there were 2 people fighting over this particular area, gets half that value rounded down in small castle tokens. So the blue player gets the 1 castle small token for a point. But now, since the black player has won that, they can reinforce neighboring areas. In this case, this area is neighboring to 2 areas that have not been resolved yet, both of which will get 2 white cubes to support the black player in those areas. So moving from the 3, we move on over to the 4. Now the 4 obviously is owned by the black player. No one else is fighting for it, so they're going to take the 4 token. And then again, they get to reinforce neighboring areas that haven't been resolved yet. In this case, that would be specifically just the 11 space, where they now have an overwhelming majority. Moving over to the 5 space, blue has definitely taken the large castle token there, while yellow is the runner-up, so getting the half rounded down, yellow gets the 2-point small castle token, but then blue gets to reinforce neighboring areas with a pair of white reinforcement cubes. Always be sure to put your reinforcement cubes right next to your own color token so they are not confused for the other tokens. Moving over to the 6 area, thanks to the reinforcements, blue wins the 6 area as well. Yellow getting the runner-up there for 3 points from a small castle token, and then reinforcements are going to be placed by the blue player in the 8 area, which that is greatly helping them out. Next, we go to the 7 area, which is all the way over there on Lynn's side of the board. So the yellow player wins that. Then Lynn gets 3 points for that because that is half rounded down to the small cubes. And the yellow player gets to reinforce the 12 only, which they are unopposed in, but we're mainly doing it to remind you that that's how this works. Moving on to the 8 area, where Lynn has won it as the blue player because of all of her reinforcement cubes. Yellow again gets the runner-up token of the 4 points, but then blue again would get to reinforce neighboring areas, except that all the neighboring areas here have already been resolved, at least the ones where blue has soldiers. So now we're going to move over to the 9, where the black player gets the 9 token, and then we move to the, and gets to, of course, reinforce the 10 area. And then we move over to the 10 area where the black player has won again, and there again is no runner-up because no one else placed cubes there. Moving over to the 11, we can see that the black player has won it handily. However, the blue player has gotten themselves a bunch of points because half of the 11 rounded down is 5 points, and with only 1 cube, they have managed to snuck 5 points out of that. And then the 12, the last place to be gotten, is unopposed by the yellow player who gets the 12. Now, if there had been a tie in any of the areas, they're tie broken by the sword tokens. The player with the larger number of sword tokens, basically the player who had passed earlier, who had finished earlier in placing all of their pieces on the board, would be the player who breaks the tie. Now we count up points, and whoever has the most points wins. In this case, the black player is the winner. So now we're going to head back over. I'm going to talk about how this game plays and how it feels, and I'm going to rate it and review it. Welcome back. So that was how you play a game of Rumble Nation. So as you can see, it's got this weird sort of press your luck dice mechanic, as well as single-use action cards while you're working to place your soldiers out on the board. And then you're doing this sort of area control, area majority mechanic to control the areas and get the points, but also there's the strategy to the sequence of the way the territories are done, and they're done differently every game because you randomize them. Low number areas are not worth as much, but will get you reinforcements to neighboring areas that could be worth more and can turn the tide of the battle for you, and that is very interesting. Also in 3 and 4 player games, getting the smaller tokens as a consolation prize also can add up and can actually help you win if, you know, the other players are really evenly splitting the large tokens. You're getting some of them but aren't in first, but if you get second in almost all of them, you might win from that also. So there's some interesting stuff going on here, but that's basically how the game is played. So now we're gonna talk about some negatives and then talk about some positives and give my final rating. So first negative is the name of this game. Now I don't know if maybe this is like a thing that doesn't translate very well to English, but the name of the game, which it is printed on the box in this edition in English, Rumble Nation, sounds awful in English. If you are not from a country where English is your first language, you might not understand this. But basically, the name Rumble Nation, I talked about this with friends of mine. One of the most common things when I tell someone there's a board game called Rumble Nation, what do you think it's about? Most people said professional wrestling and went, no thanks, not for me. So, and then when I told them, no, it's not about professional wrestling, it's about a time of war in feudal Japan, they went, oh, well, that's a terrible name for it. So this is just a little suggestion to the publisher. If you guys do decide to publish this in the United States, or if you decide to do a deal with someone here, you might want to consider coming up with an alternate name for it, because it just does not represent what the game is about to people in the United States. It doesn't sound like what it should sound like for the name of this game. Okay, so that's the first one out of the way. Now, granted, that has nothing to do with the gameplay, so we're going to move on. My first big gripe about the gameplay itself is the way the push your luck dice mechanic works. Now, I love push your luck dice mechanics, but my issue with this one is you only get one reroll and you have to reroll all the dice. I wish they had allowed you to keep certain dice. Like let's say you roll 3 dice and 2 of them together are a territory you really want to place guys in, but the third one only lets you place 1 guy. You should be allowed to just reroll the 1 die and be like, I want to try to get more guys in this territory. That would be awesome, but you can't do that, and that is a little bit of a bummer. A single reroll to a lesser extent is a little bit of a bummer. I usually like multiple rerolls, but being forced to reroll all of them, it's not as big a deal because, yeah, again, you're forced to reroll all of them. I would rather have had the ability to hold on to some of them and re-roll specific ones. I think that would have added a little more strategy to the rolling portion of the game. As it is, the rolling portion of the game is very luck-based. It's just, I like this roll or I don't, and if I don't, I'm going to re-roll all of them. I have to give up all the dice. It's a little bit of a gripe with me. Now, there is some strategy to, I don't like this roll because it doesn't let me place in any of the territories I want to put guys in, and there's certain territories I want to put guys in, but again, you have kind of less control over that because you have to reroll all the dice. And there is a very interesting positive there, moving on to the positives, where, there's the sequence in which the areas are resolved, going from the lowest number 2 all the way on up to a 12, and getting the reinforcements to neighboring areas, making certain areas more valuable than others, and influencing your decision on whether or not to re-roll because you rolled a really lousy area or an area you really don't want to have to fight over because you don't think you could win it, is interesting. That is a really interesting thing. Keeping that in mind, and that is where a big part of the learning curve is, because as you repeatedly play this, you start to plan for those things. You're like, oh, well, this number here is a low number, but it's adjacent to 4 numbers higher than it, which means it's going to reinforce all of those as long as I can get at least 1 cube in each of those. And that's huge. Now, granted, you're probably not going to get 1 cube in each of those. So that is something. Another positive is I do really like the fact that there is, while there is a reason you might want to hold back and see where your opponent is placing their cubes and therefore may want to place less cubes, there's also an incentive to place them faster and be done faster because you get the all-important tiebreakers. Now, in the example game we showed, we didn't have any tiebreakers, but actually in some of the games we've played, there have been multiple tiebreakers, and it becomes incredibly important to have the higher number of sword tokens to win a tiebreaker and be able to say, oh, well, that's it. I get this token. I get the 5 points, and you only get the 2 points. And that's a big difference. And the higher you go, the more important those tiebreakers become, because getting, 10, 11, or 12 points versus your opponent getting only 5 or 6 points is a pretty big deal. So yeah, so that is definitely pretty cool. I do like that. I do find the whole area control and the way the area control is done interesting, and I like the fact that each of the castle tokens changes the value significantly of the areas, and there's 2 reasons an area can be valuable. Again, either from its base point value or valuable because it is adjacent to a lot of higher numbers that it will help you win, and that could be great even for a low value token, even a 2, 3, or 4, which is not worth a lot in the grand scheme of things. But if those are next to 9s, 10s, 11s, and 12s, suddenly it's very valuable because it's going to help you win those spots. All right, so there you have it. That's my general feeling on it. My rating for Rumble Nation, I'm going to give this one a solid 7 stars out of 10. This is quite a good game. I do enjoy it. I think it's quite fun. So the thing is this worth it for the import if you're in a country this hasn't been released in yet, because it is only released in a handful of countries. I believe it's available. I think there's a Japanese version. There's also a European version that is available in Italian or French. But again, the English language rules are available on Board Game Geek. So my answer to that is yes, it is worth it to import it if anything I talked about here sounds really cool to you, if these mechanics seem like things you would enjoy. Because of how easily available the rules are in English, I think it is worth importing, again, if you think you would like it. And I do think it's a solid game. I do think it's quite a fun game. So let me know in the comments down below if you have tried Rumble Nation and what you thought. Let me know what you would name Rumble Nation if you got the chance to rename it, because again, I do think this is not a very good name in English for it. And if you enjoyed this review and tutorial video and you'd like to see me do more like it, be sure to give it a like, share it on all forms of social media, and if you haven't already, please subscribe to the Board Game Captain. That's Captain spelled with a K on YouTube. And until next time, game on.